Good afternoon, and welcome to More Than Meets the Eye. I am your host, Blind Prime, and for today I have for you Star Wars The Black Series, the TIEfighter. Here it is in all of its crazy freaking huge glory. This has been brought to you by a viewer of the channel named Seawall, who donated this to me just recently, and I'm just floored by the donation. Thank you so much, Seawall, for this wonderful donation to the channel, and this has allowed me to bring it to you and discuss another 1/12 scale vehicle. Who's excited about 1/12 scale vehicles? Blind Prime's excited about 1/12 scale vehicles. Yes, he is. So here is the vehicle in all of its crazy glory. All right, let's look at the sizing for it. We've got the... Where did I put him? All right, here it is. This thing always falls. It does not like being without the rest of its components. But here we go. Here is the G.I. Joe Classified Series Battle Assault Trooper, the BAT, or Battle Android Trooper. And when we get this TIEfighter thing balanced on its little spot, balance, you little... Thank you. Yeah. This thing is difficult to film. All right. So here is the G.I. Joe Classified Series, BAT, standing in front of the Black Series TIEfighter. Now the BAT stands, his head comes just above the windows on the, actually just below the windows on the TIEfighter. It's, when the TIEfighter is not connected to all of its pieces. It's pretty big. This globe, globe that all the figures fit into is pretty massive. So that's the bat. Let's slide this over a bit, compare him on the sides. Here he is compared to the side that will be the point that connects. Give you an idea of how wide this point that connects is. I'm going to shove his head in there, or we can just put his feet in there. This is big. Look at that. Both of his feet can fit in there. That is a massive connecting point. And he is, of course, holding the antenna array for the TIEfighter. I've got it in his little grabber hand, and, he's holding the end of it. So the Battle Android Trooper here has been assisting in assembling the TIEfighter. And, of course, to see the entire finished TIEfighter, please tune into my Blind Builds episode, which will be coming soon after this episode. So, let's talk about these pieces that it will come with, and then we'll talk about the TIEfighter. So here is the antenna array, and this is pretty cool. You got they kind of feel like gun barrels, honestly. Like I initially thought this was some weird gun, and that because they have this this screw here, I assumed it would tilt forward, but it doesn't. It doesn't move at all. It's just there, and that screw is pretty prevalent, even to me. I wish they'd done something like cover it with a sticker, but I have some stickers I can cover it with. Anyway, this is the antenna assembly, and it will be going up here. There's a little port at the top area of the craft, just off to the right-hand side. And it's just going to fit right into that port, but we will assemble it on the Blind Builds episode. This thing also comes with this crazy big double-barrel cannon thing. Now this is like for shooting ion blasts or phasers. I forget exactly what the ammunition is that the TIEfighter shoots from its under barrel, but this is a gun that will fit right here at the very bottom in this spot, and that it will just slide in there, and whenever I click it into place, it won't really be able to be removed. So once again, this really cool gun that has some amazing molding. Like, you could tell this is some heavy gun. And there's like instances where you can feel where the barrels can shift in on themselves a bit. And just amazing molded detail into this thing. It's quite awe-inspiring. And we're going to set that off to the side. And we're going to talk about the last big item that will be connected to this guy before we talk about the cockpit. So we're going to set the cockpit off to the side. I'm going to reach over here. and I'm going to... Where did it go? Where did it go? I had it in here. Aha, here it is. All right, sorry guys. It's so big I misplaced it. So here we go. Here is the panel that the TIEfighter will use on its wings. This is one of its wings, and as you may or may not be able to see, it covers up just about everything. And I'm not really giving you a great view of this wing with the camera angles right now. You'll get a better view of it when we assemble it, but I wanted to talk about its texture while I had it here in a little piece so that we could actually get in here. So all of this texture here, that's radiators. This is all just radiator patterns, and it's all over the place. It's so, like, good grief. Every single square inch of this thing has texture on it. It's quite awe-inspiring how they managed to do all of this. It's really cool. And, you know, it's just wow. And if you didn't know, the TIEfighter is called a TIEfighter because it has twin ion engines. And those ion engines are fusion reactor kind of things. You know, they work with a lot of heat. Well, the cockpit, you noticed, is really small compared to the wing. And this wing is actually not a wing at all. This is a giant radiator assembly. It doesn't do anything to help the TIEfighter fly. All it does is ensure that the TIEfighter's engines don't cook the pilot. And I just think that's pretty amazing. And, you know, that's why if you blow off a wing, the TIEfighter's done. Because the pilot's going to get cooked in a matter of moments. It's just, there's so much heat going on. And wow. See, if I pick it up like this, I can completely hide behind it. And there we go. We're just going to keep spinning it around to give you all an idea of this thing's entire freaking, just wow. Wow. It's a big thing. Here's the other side. They actually textured all of this interior areas on it. It's got the same type of radiator texturing on the interior. They put the molding on both sides. And even this giant thing has some molding in it, like you would see in the original movies. And this is, you know, it's a work of love. And I'm putting it off to the side because we're done with the wing. That was the wing. And there are two of those wings, but, you know, ow! I put my chair on my toe. All right, let's move into this. So, let's talk about the TIEfighter cockpit. Now that we've discussed the wings, the antenna, and the gun, and did a little sizing for those things, the giant wings, by the way, stand 25 inches tall, just so you know. And this cockpit stands, we got our handy dandy Lego pad out here, and we're just going to slide it over there, and we're just going to stand up straight, please. Yeah, there we go. All right, that is a rough approximation, and that is 27 studs tall. I've got it marked with my vents for the 27 stud. That would be the tallest leader class transformer so far, was at 27 studs, and I think that was Grimlock. So I have that set up. So 27. This thing is 27 studs tall when you're not counting the gun at the bottom and its roof, which I haven't talked about yet, but here it is. The roof is really cool. On the interior, they didn't have to texture it really, but they did. Like, you can feel there's little rivets and stuff that they just, wow. They textured the rivets. It's really cool whenever they get around to texturing the rivets. And it feels like this is some more transparent paneling, judging by the feel of the plastic. That's transparent. Or if it's not, then it's a transparent plastic that's been painted over. But it's definitely not the plastic that they're using for this thing. And the majority of the plastic used for this TIEfighter is that chalky feeling plastic that feels really dry to your fingertips. It's not glossy, it's pretty flat. And it has a less quality style texture to it. Like, this isn't the greatest plastic in the world, but this is the perfect type of plastic to use when it's a vehicle like the TIEfighter. So there is the giant canopy, and the canopy, of course, its little hatch is supposed to fit like that, right on top, and it's going to make a nice little globe. And if I remember right, these things were originally tennis balls for the Star Wars movie. They were something like tennis balls that they proceeded to just rip apart and change into little TIE fighters. You know, looking into the history of the Star Wars original movies and how they did those practical effects is always fun. So, inside here, I have a Cobra Trooper, and on the other side, the back end, I have a TIEfighter pilot. So, before we get in there and talk about them, we'll finish up talking about the exterior here. So, the two twin-ion engines, or the twin-ion engines, because twin means two, they are really well textured, even to the point where I think if you had big enough blast effects, you could actually plug them in there. And the plastic is such in there that I think if you didn't have the right type of blast effect, you could make a hole to plug a blast effect in. And for an example of that, let's see, do I have a blast effect? Yeah, I have one right here. So we have a blast effect from Transformers, and we can... It doesn't really plug in very well, but you can see if you found a way to glue it in there or something, it would probably look really nice. So, that's that. Texture-wise, on these ends, they actually included some more rivet texture, some bolt texture. It's pretty sleek most of the way around. On the back ends of these engines, you have these two little vent things that are textured, and you got a little bit of texture right there. I don't know what that is, but that's textured. And then, of course, the large smoky window that's rectangular in shape, but curved to go around the edges of the TIEfighter. My roommate told me that that's a smoky glass. And then we spin around to the front again, and we've got this giant window. That's, you know, the typical Empire-style window that you would find on a TIEfighter. So it's got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points, because it's an octagon. And of course, in the center, you got the little octagon. That's a perfectly clear path. And always weirded me out that the TIEfighter pilots had to look. Let's see if we... Yeah, this is right in the center of their viewing area. And it's always just messed with me. I'm like, why do you have this post right in the middle of your viewing area? You could have turned the octagon 15 or 20 degrees either way, and it would have been fixed. But we're done with the octagon of windows and all of their cool paneling. It's a very nice texture. It's smooth, it's sleek, but it's bumpy where it needs to be. This feels like a TIEfighter. And down here we've got the cool little pulse fire guns that the pilot of the TIEfighter can shoot, and the ones that go pew 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 pew. They have little molded detail here where they can slide in on themselves. They don't really, which is a missed opportunity in my opinion, to have them like hydraulically loaded. That would have been cool. But those are two guns, and they're at the bottoms, and they have a port that, let's see if we can pull out that blast effect again. I need that blast effect again. Not that blast effect. I just had it. I just literally had it, and I put it over here. That's not a blast effect. That's a gun. That's a blast effect. Alright, so we're going to plug in another Transformers blast effect. It doesn't really fit. It doesn't really fit in there. The hole's a bit too big for the blast effects from Transformers. But with a little creativity, I'm sure that one of you can figure it out. It's a really cool that those have supports in them. So if you got blast effects, you can plug them in so long as they're the right size. Okay, enough talking about the exterior. We've talked about everything on the exterior. Now, let's talk about the interior. First off, I have two figures in here, okay? I have the G.I. Joe classified Cobra infantry, and I have the TIEfighter pilot that came with it. The TIEfighter pilot is sitting in the gunner's seat, and the Cobra infantry is sitting in the front seat. And that's mainly because I wanted to showcase that the Cobra infantry figure can fit in here quite well. But let's give it a shake test. So we flip it upside down with both figures in. Shake, 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 Shinora. Shake it all the time now. Shake, 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 Shinora. Shake it all the time now. Look at that. Work, Shinora. Work it all the time. Alright, that's enough. So, that's a showcase on how well these figures are staying in there. Spin him around again. And also another showcase on how amazing this Cobra Trooper helmet is. It's so cool. so well designed. But let's get Cobra Trooper out of here and talk about the interior. So pull off his helmet first, because that always likes to fall apart whenever you're trying to get him out. First off, you want to move his hands from both of the joysticks. There's one on his right side and one on his left side. Once done, just kind of pick him up and pull him out. And of course, his legs have got to fit in there kind of weird, but for the most part, that's how he's going to look in there. It's not bad. He can fit in there quite well, and you would think the armor would get in the way of the clasp, but it doesn't. It does a little, but then whenever you manage to get him in the right angle, the clasp clamps down and he is in there. And now we'll talk about the pilot seat area. So the seat has texture on it, the bottom of it, and it's got these bar textures, like, you know, that really, really soft military issue padding. That's what they managed to put in there. You know, if you hadn't tell, I was being sarcastic, because anyone who's been in a military issue vehicle knows that padding is the last thing on their minds. So it's got these really crappy seats in there, and then you come up to this back panel that holds the claspers that will go around the waist of your figure. And then the back of the chair has this really cool texturing up to the headrest, and the headrest is very well textured. Like, they just went out of... It's really cool. There's even this little blocky area that the head is supposed to rest against, and wow. On either side of the cockpit, we got some movable things. We've got a joystick on the left side that's made out of a rubberized plastic, which I do not like. I wish they had made the joysticks, they're these L-shaped things, one on the left and one on the right, and they're both made out of the PC-style plastic, the slightly moldable plastic, the pliable plastic. And I wish they had made them more out of the ABS stuff, the really, really hard plastic, because it's, you got your, say, Cobra Infantry, also the TIEfighter pilot. They both have rubberized hands to help them get that kung fu grip action. But when you're trying to connect rubberized hands to a rubberized grip, things kind of fold in on themselves a bit, and it can become a bit of a hassle. That's one of the downsides on this thing. There's really not many. So the cockpit is pretty simple. It does have this cool bit that sticks up right between the guy's legs, and this one's got a couple of switches at the top, your readout, what feels like a readout there, and that's about it. It's just a couple of switches and a little readout, and honestly, it doesn't need to be much more than that. It just sits there to, I guess, protect the guy, protect the pilots. I don't know, but it's pretty neat. And on the right-hand side, we've got this really well-textured, grippy thing that comes up, and it's so that he can control, the way he can fly the plane, but it's just neat. Usually you would think there'd be just a joystick in the middle, but no, there's a joystick on the left and a joystick on the right to control each of the two engines. So if you push both joysticks forward, well, both of your engines are going to go forwards. That's pretty cool. So spin him around. Let's get in here and pull out the trooper, the TIEfighter pilot, and slip him out. And we'll talk about him in a second. But first off, so the seat on his side has the same texturing. They didn't skimp out on the gunner seat, and it's got the same texturing up the back end. I mean, this back panel that is the seat is actually just textured on both sides. And he's got more stuff on his side. There's an entire dashboard with dials and buttons and knobs, a vent, readout displays, and are these switches? Yes, they are switches. There are 3 switches. 1, 2, and 3, just over there on the gunner's right-hand side. Now this would be the left-hand side for the pilot. And on the gunner's left-hand side is another joystick apparatus that the gunner can control, which would give the gunner access to the turret that's on the bottom of the TIEfighter pilot, or the TIEfighter. And yeah, that's just about it for the interior. It's made out of some unique plastics. There's a mixture of hardened plastics and PC plastics, the posable type of plastic, the squishy plastics. And it's just, there's so much in here, and the texturing is wild. There's this entire like arm apparatus texture for the turret thing, and there's an arm apparatus texture kind of for each of the controls for the the twin ion engines. And yeah, this is. Oh, I forgot to mention that even the bottom of this thing. Let's get this thing set up so that the camera. Let's make sure we've evened it out. There we go. We'll flip it around. I have the big window on top, and maybe more light will come in that way. But what I found really cool is that down here at the very inside where the feet of your action figures will go, they textured that. You're never going to really see that, but you can feel that, and there's texture. It's a grid style texture that you would expect to find for your feet to sit on in any type of military vehicle. It's just foot resting area, but it's textured. They didn't even have to texture that. They didn't. They could have left that out, but they decided to texture it, and they did it on both sides. And it's just the interior of this thing, even on the walls, is textured. There's textures all over the place in here. You could just feel around here, and wow, they went all out on this guy. No wonder this thing is such a pricey vehicle. It is a work of love. I don't know what to say about the paint apps. I hear that they did it in first order style paint, which I don't necessarily like too much, because, if you're going to have a TIEfighter for your first TIEfighter, just release an Empire TIEfighter, because everybody wants an Empire TIEfighter. You even included an Empire TIEfighter pilot. I doubt this is the TIEfighter pilot from the First Order. But then again, I don't know. I mean, I really haven't seen the movie, and the movie is really crappy when it comes to the audio description. It doesn't really do the movie justice. Then again, Disney didn't really do those trilogies justice at all. But that's my opinion. You may have a different one. And now we'll talk about the TIEfighter pilot that he comes with. So the TIEfighter pilot's got double jointed knees. He has single jointed elbows, sadly, and they don't even pull a 90. He has no butterfly, and he's got very little on a core joint, so he can move around his core area and kind of go side to side, but that's it. He doesn't even have a waist turn, so if you want his waist to turn, you gotta just turn his upper body. His legs have traditional, hip style things. The hips aren't bad. They're pretty good. This thing's rolling around again. And texture-wise, it's pretty much a smooth, sleek texture going up this entire figure. They've layered it in different types of plastic to give a different feel to it. Like, most of his armor is this oily feeling plastic, and honestly, in super glossed Stormtrooper armor should feel slightly oily and slick, at least in my opinion. And so I really like that. I like the feel of this armor. It feels like Stormtrooper armor. And I like the fact that he's got this textured little hose that runs from his helmet down to the center of his chest, where he's got his air hookup that would connect to the air supply inside the TIEfighter. And the hose doesn't really bother him too much. He can turn his head pretty far left. He can almost look over his left shoulder, and he can almost look over his right shoulder, but he has more difficulty looking right than looking left. He can look left a little bit further than he can look right. And they gave just enough looseness in that cord to give you that. And I really think that's pretty cool. That was an attention to detail right there, because they had to measure that out pretty well. And I've never seen a figure that has a hose connected to its head that has a hose that is this moldable and malleable. Now, I don't know about the longevity of that hose, if it will break eventually because of how tight it is and how much it bends, but who's to say? So, going down textures, on his left-hand side of his body, he's got these pockets that are shaped like a gun holster, but they're two separate pockets, and it's just, came with this tiny little gun. Where did his gun go? Ah, here it is. He came with this tiny little plasma pistol And he's got the perfect spot on his left leg to plug it in as a holster, but they made them into pockets. And I'm like, you had the perfect opportunity to give this guy a holster, and you gave him pockets instead. And then on the other side, he's got this weird feeling thing that kind of feels like his armor, but it's no pocket. And so instead, you can just kind of slide the pistol in his little hose assembly that connects his uh, lower torso to his leg area. That's some sort of armor strap or something. But you can kind of just shove the pistol in there. But that's the TIEfighter pilot. He's got a nice helmet structure, and you can tell this is a TIEfighter pilot. And I always enjoyed the face sculpts for the clone troopers and the stormtroopers. The stormtroopers especially, because their helmets were just so unique. It's just really cool. So yeah, that is the TIEfighter pilot, and this has been the TIEfighter. Please tune in next Prime, where we will be teaching you and instructing how to build this in my one take building episode. So whatever happens in that episode, cats or whatever, it's going to get wild if it gets wild, but we will assemble this TIEfighter for you and teach you how to do it, because there are a few tricks, and if you screw it up, you've screwed it up forever, because once you plug these guys in, they're not coming out unless they get broken. But anyway, I've given you enough time today, so thank you for watching. Please hit that subscribe button, and please share, and of course, help me fight the YouTube algorithm by hitting that like button. And tune in next Prime, and I will teach you how to assemble the Star Wars Black Series TIE Fighter. Bye-bye for now.